Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Phillips, and this is my final project presentation for COM 555. And the prompt that I chose to address for our critical assignment was the question, how has social media impacted political situations? And the political situation that I chose to focus on was elections. Now, social media has played a very prominent role in elections, particularly since 2008. In 2008, the race between Senator John McCain and President Barack Obama was subsequently titled the Facebook election. The reason that 2008 was titled the Facebook election was because it was the first time that Facebook played a prominent role in elections or social media of any kind, and what President Obama's campaign, what their team was able to do was really use social media as a way to boost fundraising, as a way to boost donations, and also reach out to the youth vote. However, social media has actually played a role in political campaigns prior to 2008, most notably 2004. In 2004, Howard Dean, at that point the longest serving governor of Vermont, was running in the Democratic primary for the presidential nomination, and he was expected to do really well, but unfortunately finished a disappointing third place in the nation's first to vote Iowa caucuses. Now, on that night, Howard Dean notoriously gave what's known as the Dean Scream in a concession speech, where he gave a really awkward kind of howl, scream, hoot, whatever you want to call it, at the end of his speech. Now, that then subsequently circulated throughout all forms of media. It was all over news media, it circulated online, and oddly enough, ultimately ended up dooming Governor Dean's campaign. In 2008, the election between Senator McCain and President Barack Obama, who at that time was a senator from Illinois, was subsequently dubbed the Facebook election. And the reason it was called the Facebook election was because President Obama's campaign, their team used Facebook and social media particularly well to do two things. One, to fundraise, and two, to reach out to the youth vote. We saw this evolve in 2012 when President Obama's team created an app that was really crucial in swing states such as Illinois. So what they did was they found that they were having a difficult time being able to reach the youth vote that was so critical for President Obama when he was initially elected in 2008, and what they were assuming was going to be very critical for him again in 2012. The reason they were having a difficult time was because individuals 29 and under who supported President Obama largely did not have landlines, and landlines were the most common, most effective medium at that time to reach out to supporters in order to mobilize the Get Out the Vote effort. So what the president's team did was they invented an app that President Obama supporters could download on their cell phones, and through this app they were able to connect to supporters, and their supporters could then make contact lists available to the campaign. So what we're talking about people that these individuals would follow on Twitter, or more popularly, friends that are registered friends on Facebook. And so the campaign was then able to use all of this data to reach out to upwards of 5 million individuals, and they were able to connect to these younger voters who then showed up in scores and droves and voted for the president in the 11 swing states, and ultimately led to him being reelected in 2012. Fast forwarding a little bit and looking at how social media has impacted political situations in this particular election cycle, we see a few different things playing out on both the Republican and Democratic sides. First, on the Democratic side, Senator Bernie Sanders has worked very effectively in terms of reaching young voters through social media, and that has really benefited his campaign in the area of fundraising. Now, what the senator has been able to do is raise a substantial amount of money through smaller donations as opposed to typical big corporate donations, and that's really been the backbone of his campaign thus far. On the Republican side, three of the candidates have used apps in order to reach out to voters. Aside from those three candidates, what Senator Marco Rubio was doing prior to his withdrawal from the race was he was constantly using Snapchat as well as podcasts in order to reach out to voters. But the three candidates who created apps were Senator Ted Cruz, Governor John Kasich, and Dr. Ben Carson. What their apps did, particularly what Senator Ted Cruz's app did, was it created a game. So supporters of Ted Cruz are able to download this app called the Cruz Crew, and they can go on and they can post information about Senator Cruz. They can share information to their friends on Facebook or Twitter, people who may not be using the app, and the app then gives these supporters a score. And so it's kind of like a ranking, essentially like a video game, where individuals are scored and there's a leaderboard showing how people share information and how often they share information. And this has in turn provided a substantial amount of data for the campaigns because all the activity by users who are on the app is then tracked by the campaign. Now, social media may seem like it is perhaps unbalanced in terms of favoring political operatives and candidates as opposed to citizens, voters, but that's actually not the case. What social media has done is it's shifted the political landscape from being an arena that is dominated by political elites back to a grassroots focus. So when I say a grassroots focus, the best way to examine this is through current empirics, through the status quo. Right now in the status quo, on the Republican side, the two frontrunners for the nomination, Donald Trump and Senator Ted Cruz, aren't what you would consider to be party favorites. So when I say party favorites or establishment preferences, I'm talking about how traditionally Republican nominations are usually the people who elites want nominated. During this election cycle, Jeb Bush was someone who was considered a party faithful. He had a family history of being heavily involved in the party, obviously through both his father and brother being elected president, but he did not fare well at all during this election cycle. Rather, Donald Trump and Senator Cruz have done particularly well because they've been able to use arenas such as social media, Senator Ted Cruz through his app Cruz Crew, and Donald Trump through his constant posting on Twitter to galvanize grassroots supporting. And this has in turn even shifted the debate, not just the results. Now, when individuals go to town halls, which are very popular in early voting states such as New Hampshire and South Carolina, they're going to these town halls much more informed, having had access to an extensive amount of resources available through social media and through their networks. When they go to these town halls, they're asking much more pressing questions and they're pushing candidates for answers on pressing issues. Ultimately, social media has affected politics and specifically political campaigns tremendously. It's helped shift the debate away from elites and party operatives back to us, you and me, regular citizens who want to be involved in politics. I believe that the future for social media in shaping elections is very bright, and I believe that it helps underscore the backbone of a democracy, how every individual has a voice, and how every citizen's concerns can be heard. All in all, that's my synopsis of my paper and this critical assignment. Thank you all very much for what's been a tremendous 8 weeks. It's been a lot of fun being able to learn from you guys and with you guys via discussion boards and other assignments, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thanks, everyone.